Chapter 41-49. Okay. Du Fan replied and asked the waiter to call Lung Shuang and Yi Fei Fei. After they finished eating, they continued on their journey in the spirit deer carriage. The people in the city could not help but sigh in relief when they saw them leave in the spirit deer carriage. They finally left. God knows how worried they were. What would happen to them here? Yi Fei Fei was sitting in the carriage with medicine still tied to her arm. Her complexion was much better than yesterday, and she was in good spirits. Feng Jiu sat by the window with one hand on the window and looked at the scenery outside. He said, "It's been some time since we left. I wonder how the two little guys are doing. Do they miss me?" Lung Shuang heard and said, "The two little masters are under the care of the Yama Lord. They'll be fine. Master, you don't have to worry. Master, if you miss the little masters, then we can go back as soon as we find the ancient nine-tailed fox." Yi Fei Fei said and looked at Feng Jiu. "Master, how long will it take for us to reach the forest? We won't be there so soon. It's not a short journey." Feng Jiu said and looked at Yi Fei Fei. "Come, give me your hand." Hearing this, Yi Fei Fei stretched out his hand and heard her say, "Not this hand, the injured hand." "Oh." Yi Fei Fei turned her body slightly and carefully untied the hand that was wrapped around her neck. She saw her master dismantle the things on her hand, including the bamboo board and the cloth that was tied around it. The blood clots on her arm had disappeared. It was still red and swollen, but it was not as scary as it was last night. Seeing this, she said, "Master, the medicine is very good. I also drank the medicine made by Lung Shuang. My hand doesn't hurt as much. It should be better in a few days." Feng Jiu smiled and said, "Last night, your arm was filled with blood and dislocated bones. Today, I'll use the power of the Azure Lotus to help you heal your bones quickly." As she spoke, she gathered spiritual energy in her palms and drew out the power of the green lotus from her body. As she held onto Yi Fei Fei's arm, specks of green light seeped into her arm. The redness and swelling on her arm gradually disappeared. Under the skin, the broken bones were also healing at an extremely fast speed. Yi Fei Fei blinked her eyes in shock. She watched as the swelling on her arm disappeared at a speed visible to the naked eye. Furthermore, she could even feel that the broken bones in her arm were healing. The pain in her bones was disappearing bit by bit. After a while, Feng Jiu withdrew his hand and said to Yi Fei Fei, "Try clenching your fist to test your strength." "Oh." Yi Fei Fei responded in a daze and clenched his fist. He saw that his fist, which was originally unable to be clenched, was clenched tightly. The blood clots that had flowed down to his palm due to the blockage had also returned to normal due to his master's treatment. It's really healed?" She blinked her eyes in disbelief and turned her hand to look left and right. Finally, she said happily, "Master, it's really healed. My hand is really healed. The power of the Azure Lotus can even heal internal injuries. It's just broken bones. As long as the blood clots are dealt with and the bones are fixed, the power of the Azure Lotus can naturally heal them." Feng Jiu smiled and looked at her and said, "You are the weakest. This time, when you go to the Azure Demon Forest, you must step up your training." Chapter 41-50. Seeing her full of confidence, Feng Jiu smiled and took out a book and handed it to her. There's a set of body movements in this book. You should memorize it first and then practice it. In the future, even if you can't beat them, you can escape first. "Thank you, Master." Yi Fei Fei said happily and took the book with both hands and started to read. Lung Shuang looked at her sleeveless hand and then looked at Yi Fei Fei. Seeing that she seemed to have forgotten about it, he asked, "Do you want to change your clothes first?" Yi Fei Fei froze for a moment and followed Lung Shuang's gaze. Only then did he remember that because her hand was injured, this half of her sleeve was torn. Now that her hand had recovered, naturally, she could put on her clothes. So he smiled embarrassedly. "I forgot for a moment. Well, I'll change it now." She did as she said and changed her clothes in the spirit deer carriage. Feng Jiu and Lung Shuang looked at each other and smiled. This little girl was also careless. She changed her clothes as she wished. Wasn't she worried that Du Fan would suddenly open the carriage door and come in? Of course, Du Fan wouldn't come in because he heard the voices inside. At this time, he knew that Yi Feifei's hand was healed. He smiled and drove the spirit deer carriage forward. Half a month later, they arrived at a city and prepared to enter the Cyan Devil Forest. In half a month's time, Yi Feifei's body movements had become very skillful. In addition to Du Fan teaching her, Feng Jiu would occasionally give her 1 or 2 pointers. Perhaps it was because of getting along with each other. Du Fan and Yi Feifei were getting along better and better. They no longer bickered as they used to. Master, Cyan Devil City is the closest city to the Cyan Devil Forest. This place is relatively prosperous, and there are all kinds of people in the city. It's also more complicated. Since we plan to enter the Cyan Devil Forest, let's first prepare in Cyan Devil City and prepare everything we need before we set off. Du Fan drove the spirit deer carriage in and said to Feng Jiu, who was sitting in the carriage, let's find an inn to stay at. Let's take a stroll around the city and stay there for a day or 2. We'll set off when we're refreshed. Feng Jiu said as he lifted the curtain to look outside. It was just as they had heard when they came. The city was bustling, but it was also filled with all sorts of people. Because there were many mercenaries who accepted missions, and there were also people who did not follow their families who came out to train. The inns in the city could be said to be extremely popular all year round. They went to 3 or 4 inns, but did not find any empty rooms. In the end, they asked around and found out that there was an inn in the city that was twice as expensive as an ordinary inn. However, there were rooms available all year round, and they were also extremely high class. Thus, the few of them asked for directions and went to that inn. "Guests, are you here to stay?" The waiter came up to them and asked. He sized them up, and a look of surprise flashed across his eyes. These people's appearances were too outstanding. Even though he was a waiter who worked in the inn and had seen many outstanding young masters and young ladies from aristocratic families, he had rarely seen anyone who looked like them. However, he was after all a waiter who had seen a lot of the world. He quickly collected his thoughts and enthusiastically led the way for them. "Ladies and gentlemen, why don't you sit down and have a cup of tea and something to eat?" Du Fan handed the deer carriage to another waiter outside and followed them inside. When he saw inside, he couldn't help but smile. Chapter 41:51. Master, let's sit down and rest for a while. Du Fan said to Feng Jiu. "All right." Feng Jiu agreed and followed the waiter to an empty table. After sitting down, Du Fan looked at the waiter and said, "Waiter, prepare 3 rooms for us." "All right, waiter. Please follow me to the counter to pay for the rooms," the waiter said as he poured tea for them. Then, he gestured for them to follow him to the counter. Feng Jiu and the others sat down while Du Fan followed the waiter to settle the procedures. After paying for the rooms, he came back and saw that many people sitting on the first floor drinking tea were looking at them. He walked to the table and sat down. He said to Feng Jiu, "Master, do you want to rest first?" "No need. After sitting for a while and drinking tea, I'll walk around the city with Lung Shuang and the others," Feng Jiu said and took a sip of tea. Then, he looked at Du Fan and said with a smile, "Do you want to buy anything? You can also walk around and see if there's anything you want to buy." Hearing this, Du Fan nodded. "All right, then I won't be with you later." Feng Jiu smiled and said, "This Azure Demon City is close to the Azure Demon Forest. Many rogue cultivators will bring their prey or spiritual herbs here to sell. There should be a lot of people here. We'll rest here for 2 days and look around and ask for information." "Yes," the others replied. They knew that the information she was talking about was about the ancient 9-tailed fox spirit. They rested in the inn for a while. After chatting and drinking a few cups of tea, Du Fan handed the small wooden sign for the room to Feng Jiu. "Master, this room is yours. If you come back first, you can find your room by following this wooden sign." Then, he handed another one to Lung Shuang. "You and Fei Fei will share a room. These 3 rooms are connected. Master will take the room in the middle." "Yes," Feng Jiu responded and put away the small wooden tablet. Then he stood up and said, "Let's go. Let's go out for a walk." Yi Feifei followed Fengjiu with anticipation and joy. She looked at Du Fan and said, "Brother Du will go first. Be careful when you're alone." Along the way, the two of them got along better and better. She also obediently called him Big Brother Du after all. He had taken care of her along the way. Yes, follow Master and Lung Shuang closely. Don't run around by yourself. Du Fan instructed. "Let's go," Fengjiu said as she walked out. Lung Shuang and Yi Feifei followed behind her. Du Fan watched the three of them leave. He sat for a while and drank the tea in his cup. Then, he walked out of the inn and went in another direction. Seeing them leave, a man in brocade clothes in the inn said, "Who are those people? Their temperament is really outstanding." "Ha ha, Brother Juan, are you trying to say that those girls are very beautiful?" A man sitting next to him laughed and said, "However, those people are really very dazzling. Especially that woman in red. She is really a peerless beauty, seeing that the four of them came here, and their strength is unfathomable. Not to mention Brother Juan, I'm also curious about their background." Chapter 41:52. A middle-aged man said. As soon as he finished speaking, no one else said anything. This was because they had observed the people who had come in. From their auras, they knew that they were people who had been in positions of power for a long time. Moreover, their cultivations were unfathomable. Even some of the people with extremely high cultivations were unable to see through their cultivations. Of course, among the four people, there was a woman whose cultivation was relatively low, and they could tell at a glance. However, with the three people with unfathomable strength, everyone naturally ignored the weak woman. At this moment, a young girl at another table was curious. She could not help but ask the old man next to her in a small voice, "Fourth Grandpa, are those people really powerful? One of them is on par with you. The other three are unfathomable." The old man in gray said as he stroked his beard thoughtfully. After a pause, he looked at the people at the same table and said, "Go back and tell the people below not to cause trouble casually. More importantly, they're not to offend those people." Hearing this, the middle-aged men at the same table were slightly surprised. They looked at each other, but did not say anything. They only nodded. "All right, we understand." Fengjiu and the others did not pay much attention to the people and matters in the inn. At this moment, they were strolling along the street towards the central trading area. Because it was a major trading city, there was a large area designated for rogue cultivators to sell things. Yi Feifei walked along the main street until he arrived at the trading area. Looking at the things on the ground, Yi Feifei's eyes lit up. So this is how they sell things. Just a square piece of cloth will do. If we close the stall, we could just roll up the cloth and leave. That's convenient. She walked to a small stall and squatted down to look. Seeing that the stall was filled with small magic tools and formations, she could not help but look around and buy a few small magic tools to keep. "You guys walk around. I'll go see if there are any medicinal herbs," Fengjiu said, gesturing for Lung Shuang and Yi Feifei to go together. "Master, where can we find you later?" Yi Feifei hurriedly asked. Fengjiu looked around and pointed at a tea stall not far away. "If you don't see me, just wait for me there." They followed her hand and nodded. "Okay." Watching her leave, Yi Feifei pulled Lung Shuang to another stall selling daggers and said, "Lung Shuang, can you help me see which dagger is good? I want to buy one for self-defense." Lung Shuang squatted down to take a look and said, "Nothing much." Her words were straightforward, but the rogue cultivator selling daggers was displeased. "Miss, you're wrong. The daggers in my stall are all good daggers that can cut through iron like mud, and they were all refined by me. How are they not good? It's a good knife, but it's not up to my standards." Lung Shuang's voice was calm and indifferent. She glanced at Yi Feifei and said, "Let's look at the others." "Oh, okay." When Yi Feifei heard her say that it was not good, she did not look anymore. Instead, she put down the dagger and stood up to leave with her. Chapter 41:53. From his point of view, the coldness wasn't just an aura, but more of a murderous intent. He didn't dare to provoke such a person. Lung Shuang and Yi Feifei walked forward together. Looking at the stalls around them, Long Shuang said, "It's hard to find a good dagger in a place like this. It's okay. If we find something good, we'll buy it. If not, then forget it." Yi Feifei smiled and asked, "Sister Lung Shuang, is there anything you want to buy?" Lung Shuang shook his head. "No, I want to buy anything interesting. Even if I don't need it, I'll just keep it." Yi Feifei said with a smile, "So I'm very happy to be here. There are many things sold here that I've never seen before." As she was speaking, she suddenly stopped in her tracks and looked at a cage placed on a stall not far away. Inside the cage were a dozen mice the size of an egg. Seeing that she stopped, Long Shuang followed her gaze and saw that in addition to the gray little spirit mouse, there was also a white little spirit mouse. There were about 15 or 16 of them, all of which were the size of eggs. "That's a mouse," Lung Shuang said with a frown. Even if it was a spirit mouse, it was still a mouse in her eyes. Hearing this, Yi Feifei couldn't help but chuckle. "It's not a mouse, it's a spirit mouse. Come, let's go take a look." As he said this, he pulled her forward. "Miss, do you want to buy a spirit mouse? This is a spirit mouse from the Azure Devil Forest. Although it's small now, it'll grow bigger after a while. When that time comes, it can burrow into the ground or..." Before the cultivator finished speaking, Yi Feifei pointed at the white one and said, "Take this white one out for me to see. Haha, miss, you have good taste. This is the only white spirit mouse in my nest." As the cultivator spoke, he took out the white little spirit mouse and tied its feet with a rope before handing it to Yi Feifei. "Miss, look, tying it up like this won't let it escape. Although this spirit mouse is small, its reaction is very sensitive and its movements are very fast. If we don't pay attention, we won't let it escape." "Will it bite?" Yi Feifei asked. Looking at the squeaking little spirit mouse, he did not reach out to take it. No, it won't bite. It's a vegetarian and doesn't eat meat." The cultivator chuckled. Hearing this, Yi Feifei felt relieved and took it. "Then let me touch it." She held the little thing in one hand and gently stroked its head with the other. Its smooth fur was not prickly at all. On the contrary, it was soft and very comfortable. That was fun. Yi Feifei couldn't help but smile. However, at this moment, the little spirit mouse suddenly bit Yi Feifei's finger. Yi Feifei felt the pain and flung the little spirit mouse away. She looked down and saw that her finger was bleeding. She couldn't help but stare at the cultivator. "Didn't you say it doesn't bite? Why'd it bite me?" I don't know. This spirit mouse is a vegetarian and doesn't eat meat." The cultivator was also stunned for a moment, because his hand was still holding the rope that tied the spirit mouse. When Yi Feifei was startled and threw the little spirit mouse away, his hand also pulled it back. It landed in the palm of his hand, and he stuffed it back into the cage. Chapter 4154. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Squeak, squeak, squeak. The little spirit mouse squeaked while Yi Feifei stared at it blankly. After hearing Lung Shuang's words, she wanted to squeeze blood out of her hand. However, when she looked at it, she only saw a trace of blood oozing out. Her face turned pale. After a while, she said to the cultivator, "How much is this white spirit mouse? Since you like it, I'll sell it for 100 gold coins." "I'm selling it for 120 gold coins." The cultivator said with a smile. "It's too expensive." Yi Feifei looked down at her bitten hand and said, "I'll buy it for 10 gold coins." Seeing that the cultivator was about to speak, she said, "If you don't want to sell it, then you have to pay for my bitten hand. I was bitten by your little white mouse, and I'm bleeding. You have to pay me 10 gold coins." The cultivator stared at her. He originally wanted a bargain, but when he heard her words, he felt as if his breath was stuck in his throat. He wanted to say something, but he couldn't. It was very uncomfortable. 10 gold coins are equivalent to 100 silver coins. Do you want to make 10 gold coins? Or do you want to pay 10 gold coins? Yi Feifei asked. Hey, okay. Isn't it just a little spirit mouse? I'll sell it to you, okay? 10 gold coins it is. The cultivator said and shook his head, but he was secretly happy. He didn't know how this white spirit mouse got into the cage when he came back from the Cyan Demon Forest. At that time, it was injured, but it recovered after a few days of rest. Anyway, it was free. 10 gold coins, it was 10 gold coins. He wouldn't lose money. Long Shuang watched her hand over the money and take the little spiritual mouse. After walking some distance away from the stall, Long Shuang asked, "Is there anything special about this little mouse?" Yi Fei stared at the little spirit mouse in her hand with a strange expression. Then she looked up at Long Shuang and said, "I heard it talking to me. It asked me to save it." Hearing this, Long Shuang glanced at the little spiritual mouse and said, "There's nothing special about this little mouse. It's just an ordinary spiritual mouse." Just as he was about to shift his gaze away, his footsteps involuntarily paused. His gaze once again landed on the little spirit mouse as he said, "That's not right." "Ah, what's wrong?" Yi Fei asked. The little spirit mouse was in her palm. It was soft, small, and very cute. The color of its eyes has changed. Long Shuang stared at the little white mouse and said, it was no different from other spirit mice before, but now, one of its eyes is blue and the other is gold. It seems to be true. As Yi Fei spoke, he asked curiously, "Why are its eyes like this?" "I don't know." Long Shuang withdrew his gaze and said, "Put it away first and ask mistress later. Perhaps she will know." Therefore, Yi Fei stuffed the little spirit mouse into her arms and said with a smile, "Sister Long Shuang, let's go ahead and have a look." On this side, the two continued to walk around. On the other side, Fengjiu was squatting in front of a stall looking at the seeds. She looked and said, "Are these all spiritual medicine seeds?" Chapter 4155. The cultivator took out a small pouch and poured out more than a dozen seeds. He grinned and said, "Miss, these are not ordinary seeds. These seeds can only be found by chance. In the entire city, I'm the only one who has more than a dozen top-quality spirit medicine seeds." Fengjiu took a look and saw that the seeds were the size of soybeans. They were a mix of several different colors. It was clear that they were mixed together. She picked up a black seed and looked at it. She asked, "What kind of seed is this?" I don't know what kind of seed this is, but I've asked around. This is the seed of a top-grade spiritual medicine. Look, each seed has a spiritual aura wrapped around it. This is something that the other seeds don't have. If it wasn't for the fact that I can see that you're a knowledgeable person, I wouldn't have taken these seeds out. Ha! Surnamed Lee, are you trying to trick people with those useless seeds again? A man wearing a brocade robe walked over with a fan in his hand. Although he was talking to the cultivator, his eyes were fixed on Fengjiu, but he pretended to be reserved. After glancing at Fengjiu, he coughed and said, "Miss, don't listen to his bragging. No matter who buys these seeds, they won't be able to live. He can only trick people like you who come from out of town. Everyone in the city knows that his seeds are a scam." The cultivator's expression changed. He wanted to curse at the man in brocade, but he didn't dare to offend him due to the power behind him. He could only awkwardly smile and say, "Young Master Wang, you can't say that. I obtained this seed from the depths of the Azure Demon Forest. It is indeed a good thing. This isn't a lie, right?" Fengjiu glanced at the man and gently turned the seed in his hand. He didn't say anything, but he seemed to be deep in thought. No one knew what he was thinking. "Miss, if you want seeds, you can come with me to my family shop. You can have any kind of seeds you want there. They're definitely better than the ones you see on the street. Also, I won't take Mrs. Money. I just want to be friends with Mississippi," the brocade robe man said with a smile. He held a fan and bowed to Fengjiu, his eyes still fixed on her body. Fengjiu didn't look at him and only asked the cultivator, "How much are these seeds?" The cultivator originally wanted to ask for an exorbitant price, but after being interrupted by the man in brocade robe, he couldn't ask for a high price, but he also couldn't ask for a low price. Thus, he smiled and said, "If Miss likes them, then just give me whatever you want." Hearing this, Fengjiu and put the seeds back into the cultivator's hand. "And these seeds over here, give me a pack of each of them." Okay. The cultivator suddenly smiled and gave her the seeds. She handed him a small pouch of money. He reached out and took it. It was heavy. He couldn't help but open it slightly to take a look. Seeing that it was full of shiny gold coins, he smiled happily and narrowed his eyes. Chapter 4156. Thank you. Fungio smiled. After receiving the item, she put it into her space. She stood up and gently brushed her skirt as she prepared to leave. Who knew that the man in embroidered clothes was still standing there, waiting for her? Miss, my surname is Wong. How should I address you? The man in embroidered clothes asked, trying his best to maintain the appearance of an elegant young master. He felt that the woman in red in front of him had an extraordinary temperament. She should be a descendant of an aristocratic family like him, so he didn't act too presumptuously. I still want to walk around. Don't follow me and block my way. Fungio said lightly and walked forward. When the man in embroidered clothes heard this, he quickly said, Then let me lead the way for Miss. My Wong clan is the head of the 8 great clans in Azure Demon City. I am familiar with the city. Hearing this, Fungio raised her eyebrows. The head of the 8 great clans? When young Master Wong saw that she finally looked at him, he immediately puffed out his chest and fanned himself with the fan in his hand. With a proud face, he slightly raised his chin and said, That's right, my Wong clan is the head of the 8 great clans in Azure Demon City. Everyone in the city knows me. All right, I haven't introduced myself. My surname is Wong, and my name is Wong Yu. I am the son of the Wong clan. Everyone in the city calls me Lord. Fungio nodded as the corners of her lips curled up into a smile. A light flashed in her clear eyes as she looked at him and asked with a smile, In that case, if we were to ask about the matters of Azure Demon City, young master, you should be the most knowledgeable about them? His eyes flickered slightly when he saw the smile on the woman's lips, but he quickly returned to his senses. He said complacently, Of course. My ancestors have lived in Azure Demon City for generations. Let alone Azure Demon City. I even know where you can't go in Azure Demon Forest, and where there are powerful, ferocious beasts. Hearing this, Fungio smiled and said, Then let's find a place to sit. I have some things I want to ask Lord Yu. Okay. Shall we go to the tea house in front? He pointed to a tea house not far away. Okay, Fungio said and followed him to the tea house. They walked to the tea house, followed by 2 attendants of the Wong family. The street was bustling with activity, but she still heard a woman's cries and cries for help in the alley ahead on the left. She was about to go and have a look when she heard Wong Yu give an order to the people behind her. Go to the alley in front and see what's going on. He gestured for the attendants behind him to take a look. Yes. One of the attendants quickly walked towards the alley and came back not long after. Young master. The 3rd young master of the Zheng family has taken a fancy to a girl who sells medicine and is trying to force her to marry him. The attendant stepped forward and whispered in Wong Yu's ear. Hearing this, Wong Yu's face darkened and she scolded, It's that Zheng boy again. Let's go and have a look. She strode forward, but after taking 2 steps, she seemed to remember that Fungio was behind her, so she turned back and said with a smile, Miss, wait for me here. I'll go and deal with someone. I'll be back soon. How about you wait for me at the tea house? Fungio smiled and said, It doesn't matter. I'll go with you. Chapter 4157. When they arrived at the alley, they saw a man dressed in luxurious clothes standing at the side. 2 attendants were pulling a young girl. The young girl had a delicate and pretty appearance. At that moment, she was panicking and scared. Her helpless appearance and her tears added to her pitiful appearance, causing others to feel pity for her. There were also a few cultivators who had set up stalls in the alley. However, all of them had an indifferent look on their faces. They only watched and did not try to persuade or help. The medicinal herbs on the ground were scattered all over the ground. Some of them had been trampled to pieces. A bamboo basket was thrown into the corner, and some medicinal herbs were hanging on the side of the basket. No, don't pull me. I don't want to go. The girl cried and begged. However, with her weak strength, she could not break free from the 2 attendants. Let go of the girl. A sonorous and powerful shout came from the entrance of the alley, which stunned everyone in the alley and made them look in the direction of the sound. Fungio followed behind Wong Yu. Hearing his shout, a smile flashed across his eyes. It was really interesting. Oh, I was wondering who it was. It turned out to be Master Yu. What? You also like this girl? I'm sorry you're late. I like her, and I'm going to take her back to the mansion. The man in luxurious clothes glanced at the crying girl, reached out his hand to wipe her tears, and said tenderly, "Don't cry. What's there to cry about? It's your blessing that I like you. You can live a good life with me. Can it compare with the herbs you sell here?" Because Feng Jiu was standing in the back, blocked by Wang Yu and his two attendants, the people in the alley could not see her. They only knew that there was a woman in a red dress behind her. However, they did not pay too much attention to her, and their eyes and attention only fell on Wang Yu. "Zheng San, you're also a member of several big families in the city. Your kidnapping will only bring shame to your Zheng family. Let her go. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." Wang Yu shouted. "What? You also like her?" Zheng San asked, one hand holding the young girl's waist. "I won't let go. What can you do to me?" Wang Yu looked at him coldly, waved the fan in her hand, and ordered the two attendants beside her, "Go. Beat the crap out of him." As soon as he finished speaking, two of his attendants rushed towards Zheng San. The two Zheng family attendants who were holding the girl immediately let go of her and quickly went to help. The young girl took the opportunity to wipe away her tears. She picked up the bamboo basket on the ground and packed it with the herbs that were not trampled and quickly left. Feng Nine stood quietly and watched. Seeing that Wang Yu's two attendants were stronger than the other two, they quickly suppressed the other side. However, the man surnamed Zheng came forward to help, waving his fist and rushing directly at Wang Yu's two attendants. Seeing this, Wang Yu immediately scolded. She put the fan in her hand to her waist, waved her fist, and went straight to Zheng San's face. "You little turtle, how dare you hit my people? I'll teach you a lesson." When the cultivators in the alley saw this, they hurriedly moved their stalls to the back. Some of them hurriedly packed up their things and went outside. Chapter 41:58. These people were hitting each other with their fists, using a lot of inner strength. They really didn't show any mercy, as if they were seizing the opportunity to beat each other to death. However, even though these people were fighting fiercely, no one used a weapon, nor did they try to kill each other. This made her a little surprised. Bang, bang. "Hiss! Wang Yu, you bastard! How dare you beat your master Zheng? I'm not beating you, you bastard. I've been wanting to beat you for a long time. If I don't beat you until you look for your teeth on the ground, I'm not surnamed Wang." Wang Yu waved her fists with all her strength. Her punches were aimed at the opponent's face. The force of her punches was loud, and it was painful to listen to. "Ah, my teeth. Bastard. I'm not done with you. Hiss! How dare you hit my face? I'll let you hit my face. I'll let you hit my face." Bang, bang, bang. Feng Jiu watched from the side. She saw that the two young masters in embroidered clothes were in a mess from the fight. Even the jade crowns on their heads were messed up. There was also that Zheng San. His face was swollen like a pig's head. Young master, it's okay, don't hit, don't hit." Seeing this, the Wang family's attendants were afraid that they would beat him to death, and hurriedly came forward to pull their young master away. Master Zheng, how are you?" The two attendants of the Zheng family did not care about the fight anymore, and hurriedly came forward to help him up. "Get out. I'm going to kill that bastard." Zheng San roared, and with this roar, two of his teeth fell down, and his voice was also leaking air. He suddenly stiffened, touched his mouth, and looked at the teeth on the ground. For a moment, he was unable to restrain his anger. "Bastard! I'll kill you. Master Zheng, don't hit, don't hit." The two attendants hurriedly held him down. "Yes, it hurts. How's my eye? Is it swollen?" Wang Yu snorted, glanced at him, and touched his left eye to ask the attendant beside him. "No, it's not swollen, just a little bruised," the attendant said in a soft voice. He lowered his head and did not dare to look at his messy appearance after being pulled. "Young master, are you all right?" Feng Jiu asked with a smile. "It's nothing." As he spoke, he turned his head around. When he saw Feng Jiu, he seemed to have thought of something. He hurriedly lowered his head to tidy up his robes. Then he realized that the jade crown on his head was crooked. He hurriedly tried to straighten it, but when he tried to straighten it, it became crooked again. "Third master, let's go." Seeing that Wang Yu's attention was not on them, the two attendants of the Zheng family hurriedly pulled their master to leave. Unexpectedly, Zheng San was pulled away, but when he passed by Fengjiu, he saw her face and suddenly couldn't move his legs. He was stunned and tried to open his swollen eyes to see the beauty in front of him. But at this moment, "You idiot! What are you looking at? Get lost!" Wang Yu saw his eyes staring at Fengjiu. She was annoyed and lifted her leg to kick his ass. "Hiss! Wang Yu, you bastard! You wait for me. I won't let you go." Zheng San was kicked forward. Fortunately, the two attendants supported him, so he didn't fall to the ground. The two attendants were afraid that they would fight again, so they hurriedly half-dragged and half-escorted him away. Chapter 41:59. Fengjiu smiled and said, "I think you're also badly injured. How about this? You go back and apply the medicine first. I'll stay in the city for 2 more days. Let's sit down and talk when you're better." Hearing this, Wang Yu looked down at her current appearance. She was in a mess, and it was not suitable for her to sit down and talk. So she asked, "Where do you live in the city? What can I find you? And, you see, I still don't know your name." This, Fengjiu glanced at her and said, "My surname is Feng. I live in the Qingyun Inn in the city." Hearing this, Wang Yu's eyes lit up. "Well, I'll go back and apply the medicine first. I'll come to you tomorrow." "Okay," Fengjiu responded, nodded slightly, and then turned to leave. After watching her leave, the two attendants looked at him and said, "Young master, shall we go back first?" Go back. I'm too embarrassed to walk on the street like this, let alone accompany Miss Feng to chat in the inn. Let's go. I'll have to apply the medicine when I get back." As he spoke, he walked out of the room. The two attendants behind him hurriedly followed after him. When Wang Yu walked out of the alley and walked to the street, Fengjiu, who was not far behind, stopped and looked at the cultivators on the street, smiling and greeting Wang Yu. He was very happy to hear them call him Young Master Yu. After seeing him leave, the people on the left and right sides also chatted. While compared with the young masters of other aristocratic families, this young Master Yu is very good. A cultivator who set up a stall said, "Yes, at least the Wang family didn't bully us, and the children of the Wang family didn't kidnap girls like the Zheng family did. Although this young Master Yu is a bit foppish, I've never heard of him kidnapping girls. And it is said that the Wang family has a rule that he can't touch other women before his wife marries into the family, let alone have a concubine. So he is still a virgin." Ha 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 ha. This is the rule left behind by the ancestors of the Wang family. The Wang family really abides by the rules. If it were any other family, children of his age would be running around everywhere. Hey, that's not right. I heard that the Wang family and the Ruan family are discussing marriage. I'm preparing to marry this young Master Yu. That's the news from last month. You definitely don't know. The third miss of the Ruan clan despises Prince Yu, saying that he's useless and doesn't deserve her. The marriage has long been called off. Is that so? You see, it's hard for these aristocratic families to get married. They have to have a similar family background, a handsome face, and strong strength. The young masters of aristocratic families have to consider all aspects before they marry a wife. Many of them are arranged by their parents. They don't like their wives even if they don't meet them. Fengjiu stood at a small stall not far away, looking at things while listening to the cultivator's conversation. After a while, she picked 2 trinkets, paid the money, and got up to leave. When she first saw Wang Yu, she thought that he was a lecherous, foppish young master. However, after interacting with him, she found that although he looked at her with amazement, there was no profanity. He just felt that she was very beautiful and stunning, so he approached her. What surprised her was that Wang Yu saved the girl, and it didn't look like he did it deliberately for her to see. Instead, it seemed like this was not the first time. Chapter 4160. What was interesting was that this person was not as simple as he looked on the surface. He acted out the image of a hedonistic son of rich parents so well that she was almost fooled. However, if one observed carefully, they would know that this person was not as playboy and lustful as he looked on the surface. As a young master of a large family, if he was not spoiled, he would not be such an idiot. She wanted to ask him about the ancient nine-tailed fox spirit, but it seemed that she would have to do it another day. She smiled and put away her thoughts. She looked around to see if there was anything else that caught her eye. Dufan did not go to the market. Instead, he asked around and went to the mercenary guild in the city. He felt that if he wanted to find out about the nine-tailed fox spirit, only the mercenaries who ran into the Cyan Devil Forest would know about it. When he arrived at the entrance of the mercenary guild, he saw a few mercenaries gathered outside. They were either sitting or standing in groups of 3 to 5, chatting. When they saw a stranger, they looked at him. "Young master, this is the mercenary guild. Did you come to the wrong place?" A burly man with a strong waist and a strong back said with a smile. He was drinking from a bottle of wine in his hand. "I'm looking for the mercenary guild. I didn't come to the wrong place." Dufan replied with a smile. His steps were light and slow, and he walked forward with the appearance of an elegant young master. The burly man drank another mouthful of wine and wiped his mouth with his sleeve. He said to Dufan, "Young master, are you here to issue a mission? We can accept any mission. The price can be negotiated." "No." Dufan shook his head and stepped into the guild hall. When the woman at the counter saw Dufan, she thought that he was here to issue a mission. She stood up and asked with a smile, "Young master, how can I help you? Is your president here?" Dufan asked. He tapped on the counter lightly with one hand and looked inside. Hearing this, the woman was startled and asked, "May I know your name? Why are you looking for our president?" Dufan smiled and said, "Give me a piece of paper and a pen." "Yes." The woman responded and took a pen and paper from the counter for him. Then she stood there and looked at him. However, she saw him glance at her with a faint smile. She couldn't help but blush. Then she sat down and didn't look at what he wrote. "Give this paper to your president." As Dufan spoke, he glanced at the woman and smiled. "You can't peek. You can only hand it to your president personally." "Yes." The woman blushed and hurriedly responded. Then she took the folded paper and went inside. Dufan walked to a chair at the side and sat down. The people sitting next to him were cultivators who had come to take the mercenary assessment. At this moment, they were all looking at Dufan with curiosity and sizing him up. Some people thought that he was a descendant of an aristocratic family. Some people felt that he was an elegant young master. There were also people who felt that this was a person who had been in a high position for a long time. Some people even thought that he was just a gigolo. Inside, the woman at the counter took the folded paper and went in. Before she could meet the president, she was stopped by a manager. "Why are you not at the counter? Why are you here?" The manager said unhappily, "Hello, Manager Lin." The woman bowed and said, "There's a young master outside who asked me to pass this paper to the president." Chapter 4161. You don't even know who the other party is, and you want to take his things to the president? If anything happens, can you bear the responsibility? The manager shouted sternly. Looking at the woman with her head lowered, he asked, "Where's the thing?" "It's just a piece of paper. Moreover, it's the pen and paper I gave him. There's only words on it, nothing else." The woman whispered, "Give it to me," the manager said and stretched out his hand. The woman hesitated for a moment, then bit her lip and shook her head. "No," that young master said, "I can only give it to the president." "Give it to the president? Does he know the president? Do you know why he's doing this? What if something bad happens when you casually give something unknown to the president?" "But this is just a piece of paper with words on it," the woman whispered. Because she was a relative of the president, she was not afraid of this manager. "Take it out." The manager shouted again, his anger obvious. "What's with the noise?" An old man walked out and looked at the two people outside. He frowned. "What are the two of you arguing about?" "Third elder, is the president here?" the woman asked and quickly walked forward. "The president is discussing something with us elders." "What do you want?" the old man asked, his gaze falling on the woman. "There's a young master outside who want me to give this to the president," the woman said and took out the piece of paper. "Give it to me." The elder stretched out his hand and gestured for her to take it, but who knew that she would take a step back? He couldn't help but raise his eyebrows and stare at her. "What are you doing? Isn't it just a piece of paper? He wants you to give it to me. I'll take it in for you, all right? The woman thought of that elegant young master, thought of how he looked at her with a smile, and told her that she could only give it to the president personally and not peek. She clenched the piece of paper in her hand and said that young master said, I can only give it to the president personally. She knew she shouldn't, but she didn't know why. But when she thought of that young master's smiling eyes, her mind was in a mess. She only felt that since that young master trusted her so much, she should do it well. When the old man saw this, he took a deep breath and cursed under his breath, "Blockhead!" He walked inside and saw that she was still standing there. He immediately shouted, "Come with this old man." Yes. The woman smiled happily and hurriedly followed him in. Inside, the president was discussing something with several elders. When they saw the third elder bring in a little girl, they couldn't help but be startled. They looked at each other and asked, "What's wrong?" "Humph. Let this little girl speak for herself." The third elder lightly snorted. He flicked his sleeves, walked to his seat, and sat down. Then, he picked up his teacup and took a sip. "President, there's a young master outside who wants me to give you a note." The woman revealed a joyful smile as she stepped forward and handed the note to him before standing to the side. Hearing this, the president was slightly surprised. After glancing at the woman, he opened the note and read it. When he read it, his expression changed slightly, and he stood up from his seat. "Where is that young master now?" the president asked anxiously. Not knowing why the president had such a look on his face, the woman hurriedly replied, "That young master is waiting outside. Quickly invite him in." As he spoke, he felt that it was inappropriate and said, there's no need for me. I'll personally invite him in." As he spoke, he was about to walk out when he was pulled back by one of the elders. Chapter 4162. We'll talk later. As the president spoke, he walked out quickly. Dufan sat outside until he saw the lady walking quickly with an old man. Only then did he stand up. "Young master, this is our president." As the lady spoke, she wanted to tell the president that she was talking about this young master, but the president pushed her aside. "Young master, let's talk inside." The president gestured for him to enter. "All right." Dufan nodded slightly and smiled at the lady. "Thank you, young lady." As he spoke, he walked in. The lady's face turned red, as if she was in love. She walked back to the counter and sat down a daze. Inside, in the hall, a few elders had not left. When they saw the president return with a young master holding a fan, they were startled and looked at each other. "Why are you all still here? Let's disperse for now." The president was slightly stunned when he saw them, and had them leave first. Hearing this, the elders stood up. They wanted to ask, but when they saw the president's expression, they did not ask. They only said, "Then we'll leave first. We'll talk about what happened just now later." As they spoke, they left. After inviting Dufan to sit down and serving tea, the servants left. Only the president and Dufan were left in the hall. At this moment, Dufan spoke, "Sorry to disturb you." No. As the president spoke, he looked at him and took out the piece of paper and asked, "Young master, the words master of heaven and earth are written on this. What do they mean?" In fact, he had a guess in his heart, but he wanted to confirm it. Dufan smiled and said, "I haven't introduced myself. My surname is Du, and my name is Fan. My master is the ghost Dr. Fungio. The current master of heaven and earth is Chi Kong, one of the 8 great phoenix guards under my master." Hearing these words, the president's heart thumped wildly. The hand that was holding the teacup trembled slightly. He hurriedly drank a mouthful of tea to calm himself down. Then, he placed the teacup down and took a deep breath before asking, "I wonder what young Master Du is here for?" "President, there's no need to panic. I'm here today to ask you about something." Dufan smiled and spoke gently. The president's anxious heart gradually relaxed. "I see. Then what does young Master Du want to ask about? As long as I know, I'll tell you everything." He hurriedly said, "I'd like to ask if you've heard of any news about the ancient nine-tailed fox, since you're close to the Azure Demon Forest, and the Mercenary Guild is in contact with the Azure Demon Forest more often." Hearing this, the president was startled. "Ancient nine-tailed fox." He paused for a moment and said, I've heard of it, but I've never seen it. The mercenaries of the guild will also go on missions into the Azure Demon Forest. However, the ancient nine-tailed fox's hiding place must be in the depths of the Azure Demon Forest. It's the most dangerous place. Ordinary people can't go to that place. Therefore, we've only heard of the ancient nine-tailed fox appearing in the Azure Demon Forest. However, we don't know where it appeared and whether it's still there. Chapter 4163. Hearing this, Du Fan was deep in thought. The Wong family, one of the 8 great families in the city. Yes, if young master wants to know about the ancient nine-tailed fox, you can ask the Wong family. Du Fan nodded and said, I understand. He stood up and said, Sorry for disturbing you today. No, it's my fault for not being able to help young master. I'm really sorry. The guild master quickly said. Du Fan smiled and said, I accompany my master here. My identity is a secret. I hope the guild master can keep it a secret in case it causes too much commotion. Yes, I know this. I will not reveal any information. He quickly promised. If that's the case, I'll take my leave first. He cupped his hands and bowed, then turned and walked out. I'll see young master out. As he said this, he quickly followed and saw him off. After seeing Du Fan leave, the guild master returned to the inner hall. When he returned, he saw a few elders waiting for him in the hall. He asked Sit, let's talk about what happened earlier. Hearing this, the elders looked at each other. One of them said, Guild master, who is that young master? What did he come here for? He is an old friend of mine. This time he passed by and came to see me. The guild master did not say much. He looked at the few of them and said, About the mercenary assessment, do you have any other opinions? Seeing that he did not say much, the few of them did not ask any more, but they did not believe the guild master's words. On the other side, Fengjiu walked around, bought some things, and went to the appointed tea house to sit while looking at the various people on the street. Looking at one of the stalls, a woman was selling things. Behind her sat a child of about 3 years old. The child was holding a ball in his hand, and it rolled down the street. The child stood up and chased after the ball. When the woman saw this, she called out to the child, telling him not to run too far, and continued to buy things. At this time, the street in front of them was filled with panic and chaos. He saw a ferocious beast with red eyes running out of nowhere. It was an adult wind wolf. It was extremely fast, and its body was injured. As it ran, the things on the street were flattened and messed up. Some cultivators couldn't react in time and fell to the ground in fright. They watched as Hui Lang dashed towards them with several men in black chasing after him. On the street in front of them, the child was standing there with a ball in his hand, staring blankly, oblivious to the approaching danger. Just as she was about to rush out, she saw a cultivator leap forward and grab the child before rolling away. However, as he carried the child away from the wind wolf, he was heavily stepped on by a man in black robes. Amidst the chaotic noise, she could faintly hear a muffled groan from the cultivator. Due to the wind wolf's extreme speed, the black-robed cultivators were unable to catch up. One of them immediately raised his hand to reveal the sleeve arrow on his arm, but was pulled back by the person beside him. There are too many people on the street. We can't shoot. If we don't shoot, it will run away. Its speed is too fast. We won't be able to catch up. Let's catch it first. That person said, ignoring the person beside him. The sleeve arrow in his hand shot out. Chapter 4164. Ah! He cried out in pain and retreated a few steps before falling to the side. Seeing the hidden arrow in his shoulder, his face immediately turned pale. Whoosh! The man in black didn't stop there. Instead, he shot out a second sleeve arrow. This time, the sleeve arrow shot into the wind wolf's back arm. With a howl, the wind wolf ran even faster. Whoosh! The hidden arrow shot out again, but the wind wolf dodged it. As soon as the wind wolf dodged, the old man behind it immediately turned pale and froze in place as he watched the hidden arrow fly towards his forehead. Fengjiu's expression became cold. She originally wanted to act, but when she saw Long Shuang appear beside the old man, she calmly watched. Clang! The long sword blocked the hidden arrow. Before the hidden arrow fell to the ground, Long Shuang swatted it with his sword and attacked the person who shot the hidden arrow. The other person was rushing forward and didn't expect the hidden arrow to return. For a moment, he couldn't dodge and could only watch as the hidden arrow sank into his arm. Immediately, he raised his hand and was about to release a fourth hidden arrow when he sucked in a cold breath and dropped his arm in pain. Oh! In front of them, the wildly running wind wolf collapsed in a pool of blood. In front of the wind wolf stood Du Fan with a folding fan in his hand. He glanced at the twitching wind wolf on the ground and then looked forward. He saw Long Shuang and Yi Fei Fei, as well as his master sitting in a nearby tea house. He walked forward and came to Long Shuang and Yi Fei Fei's side, asking, "Are you all right?" "We're fine," the two replied. Yi Fei Fei looked at him and said with some surprise, "Big brother Du, why are you here?" "I walked around the city and thought I'd come here to take a look. I didn't expect to run into an out-of-control wind wolf," he said simply and gestured. "Master is in front. Let's go." "Yes," the two of them replied and followed him forward. However, they had only taken a few steps when they were stopped by a few cultivators in black robes. "What are you doing?" Du Fan asked, looking at them. "You hurt me." The cultivator with the injured arm didn't look at Du Fan. Instead, he stared at Long Shuang with cold eyes. "Which eye of yours saw it?" Yi Fei Fei snorted and looked at that person. "I only saw you using a sleeve arrow to hurt people. You're courting death." That person shouted darkly as he raised his hand to slap Yi Fei Fei's face. Seeing this, Du Fan's eyes flashed with coldness. He pulled Yi Fei Fei behind him with one hand and lifted his leg to kick Du Fan, sending him flying more than 10 meters away. Cha-cha-cha-cha-da, that person was kicked back, but he didn't fly off the ground. Instead, his body rubbed against the ground. Because of the force of the kick, after a few meters, a bloody mark was left on the ground. That person screamed in pain. He felt a burning sensation on his back, and the pain was unbearable. Several cultivators in black robes were shocked. Two of them quickly went over to help him up. When they looked at him, they saw that the clothes on his back had been torn, revealing a blood-stained back. It was a ghastly sight. That person was helped up, but he couldn't even stand. He spat out a mouthful of blood, which splattered all over the ground. He opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but in the end, he couldn't take it and fainted. Chapter 4165. To the side, Long Shuang said indifferently, "Du Fan's kick, even if he doesn't die, he'll be crippled. That kick didn't just injure his back, it also injured his internal organs. If he didn't have the best medicine to treat it, he would be crippled." The fan in Du Fan's hand opened with a schwa sound. He gently fanned himself and said helplessly, "I didn't want to be so violent. It's just that this person is courting death. He can't blame me." As he spoke, he strode forward. "I don't know who these people are, but they're too arrogant. They used a hidden arrow in front of so many people." As Yi Fei Fei said this, she saw that one of the cultivators still had a hidden arrow in his shoulder. She quickly walked forward. "I'll help you pull it out." No need." That person's face was pale, as if he was frightened. Or perhaps it was because he saw the power of Du Fan's kick, but when he saw the girl come forward to help him pull out the hidden arrow, the man holding the fan glanced at him, and he suddenly felt panic and fear. "Why don't you go to the clinic and get someone to help you pull out the arrow, clean up the wound, and bandage it?" Yi Fei Fei saw the fear on the other's face and didn't force him. He only told him to hurry to the clinic. "Yes, thank you, Mississippi." That person quickly got up and went to the clinic. As for the men in black, they had already taken the corpse of the wind wolf and its unconscious comrade and quickly left. The three people arrived at Fengjiu's place and called out, "Master." Fengjiu's gaze fell on the cultivator who couldn't stand up after returning the child to the woman. She said to Du Fan, "Take that person to the clinic. Just go back to the inn later." Du Fan was slightly startled. He followed her gaze and saw a cultivator slowly moving to the corner with a painful expression. He responded, "Yes." As he spoke, he walked out. "Master, look, I bought a pet." Yi Feifei took out the little spirit mouse from his bosom and put it on the table. Feng Jiu glanced at it and raised her eyebrows slightly. This is not an ordinary spirit mouse. She looked at her and asked, "Where did you buy it?" Hearing his master say that it was not an ordinary spirit mouse, Yi Feifei was very happy and said, "I bought it from a cultivator who was selling spirit pets. This little spirit mouse bit me, and I found that its intelligence was higher than ordinary spirit mice, so I bought it. Your spirit mouse has one gold and one blue eye. It looks like a treasure-hunting spirit mouse." Feng Jiu smiled and glanced at the little spirit mouse that had curled up into a ball. She had an ancient aura around her, so the little spirit mouse did not dare to get close to her. "Ah, treasure-hunting spirit mouse? Does master mean that this is a spirit mouse that can find treasures?" Yi Feifei asked in surprise. "When I go back, I'll look through the 100 Beast book and see if it's true." As she said this, her voice paused, and she said with a smile, "However, it's most likely correct." "That's great." She couldn't hide her joy and smiled. Lung Shuang watched from the side and also revealed a smile. Speaking of which, Yi Feifei's luck seemed to have always been very good. "Let's go. Let's return to the inn." She stood up and paid the bill before leaving with them to return to the inn. On the other side, the black-clothed cultivators who had returned to the Spirit Beast arena reported the matter to their master. After that, they stood to the side and waited for their master's orders. Chapter 4166. Hearing this, the few of them looked at each other and agreed. Just as they were about to leave, they were called back. "Wait a moment." They stopped and looked at their master, asking, "Master, do you have any other orders? Have someone treat his injuries and let him leave. I don't need people who have no sense of propriety here," he said in a deep voice, his face expressionless and cold. Hearing this, the few of them were startled, but they didn't dare to say anything and quickly left. After they left, an old man standing to the side opened his mouth. "Master, should we send someone to inquire about the origins of those people?" "No need." He raised his hand and said, "This matter was done inappropriately by our people. The other party taught them a lesson, but if we ask about their origins, they will think that we want to take revenge on them." His voice paused, and he stood up and walked slowly. From their description, those people are not ordinary people. There is no need to offend those people for an insignificant person. "Yes," the old man replied. "This is also good. We won't get into trouble. Go and make some arrangements. Give the people who were frightened and injured on the street some compensation and deal with the matter properly. Don't let people talk about it. Also, go and knock on the people below to make them behave. If something like this happens again, they won't be let off easily." The middle-aged man said in a deep voice. "Okay, I will go now," the old man said and left first. The middle-aged man walked outside with his hands behind his back. Looking at the ferocious beasts in the cages of the Spirit Beast field, he thought of the wind wolf that was provoked and ran away. A dark light flashed in his eyes. That wind wolf speed was one of the best among these ferocious beasts, and its strength wasn't weak either. However, it was killed by a young man with a fan in his hand in one move. From this, it could be seen how strong he was. Even if he hadn't seen such a person face to face, he knew that he couldn't make an enemy out of him. Du Fan returned to the inn after making arrangements for the man. Seeing that his mistress and the others had already sat down at the table and were chatting, he walked up to them and said, "Mistress, that cultivator has an old injury on his leg. He was stepped on, and his old injury was triggered, but we've already applied medicine and sent him back. He'll be fine after a few days of rest." "All right, have a seat." Feng Jiu gestured. "Master, do you know that person?" Yi Feifei asked. Feng Jiu smiled, took a sip of tea, and said, "I just asked Du Fan to help him because he saved a child. We don't know each other." Hearing this, the three of them came to a realization. So that was the case. Du Fan poured a cup of tea and said, "On the way back, I asked around. Those cultivators in black robes were from the Spirit Beast Arena. This Spirit Beast Arena is a place where vicious beasts and spirit beasts trade. There are many humans, spirit beasts, and vicious beasts inside. That wind wolf must have been provoked by something and ran out. This Azure Demon City is close to the Azure Demon Forest. It's not strange that there are people doing business with vicious beasts. Fengjiu said, however, if you have time, you can go and see what kind of beasts are kept in this spirit beast arena. Master, when we were outside asking around today, we didn't hear much about the ancient nine-tailed spirit fox. Yi Feifei said as he poured tea for them. Chapter 4167. Oh, tell me about it. Fengjiu said, looking at Du Fan. I thought that the people from the Mercenary Association would know something about the Cyan Demon Forest, so I went to ask the president of the Mercenary Association. However, he didn't know much except for some rumors. He said that the people from the Wang family, one of the 8 great families in the city, would know something. So I thought, should I go to the Wang family and ask? The Wang family? Fengjiu raised his eyebrows and thought of Wang Yu. Du Fan nodded and said, yes, the Wang family is one of the 8 great families in the city. The ancestor of the Wang family once led a team into the depths of the Cyan Demon Forest. According to the president of the Mercenary Association, the ancestor of the Wang family had seen the ancient nine-tailed fox spirit. Hearing this, Fengjiu smiled and said, I met a disciple of the Wang family outside today. Let's put it aside and wait for me to sound out Wang Yu's words. Yes, Du Fan answered. Seeing the waiter serve the food and wine, he didn't say anything more. Let's eat first. We're not in a hurry to enter the Cyan Demon Forest. Let's rest here and prepare the information and things we need. Fengjiu said, picking up the chopsticks and eating a piece of meat. On the other side, as soon as Wang Yu returned to the mansion, she was stopped by the steward before she had time to apply medicine. First, young master, the family head is looking for you. Hearing this, Wang Yu covered her eyes and said, don't you see that I'm in a mess now with injuries on my face? Can I go to see my father like this? She walked inside and said, I'll apply medicine and change clothes first. But the family head said you should go to see him as soon as you come back. The steward caught up and said, the family head is very angry. First, young master, you'd better go now. Hearing this, Wang Yu stopped and asked, why is he angry? I didn't provoke him these 2 days. Seeing this, the steward sighed helplessly, stepped forward and whispered, the family head of the Zeng family came with 3rd young master Zeng. Now they are waiting in the hall, asking for an explanation. TSK, this Zeng San couldn't beat me. So he called his father over to our house to demand an explanation? All right, I'll go talk to them. He sneered and walked towards the hall. At this time, in the hall, Patriarch Zeng looked at Patriarch Wang with a dark face and said, this is outrageous. Look at what your son has done to my son. If you don't give me an explanation today, I won't let this matter go. The Wang family head took a sip of tea and said, Brother Zeng, don't be angry. In fact, this is a matter between the children. Let the children solve it. Fighting is quite normal for young people, right? What's more, my son hasn't returned yet, so I don't know what the situation is. You can't just say whatever you want, right? What do you mean? Are you saying that the Zeng family is in the wrong? Did my son deserve to be hit? Does he deserve to be beaten like this? The head of the Zeng family slammed his hand on the table and stood up angrily, glaring at the head of the Wang family. What's going on? Why are you slamming the table in my Wang family's territory? Isn't this Uncle Zeng? I haven't seen you for a long time. You look a lot older. Wang Yu, who was in a mess, came in with a sloppy look. Chapter 4168. Father, I was going to come back after applying medicine and changing my clothes. After all, I'm an adult. It's not good to fight with Zeng San like this, but I didn't expect that Zeng San would call his father to come to our house. So, I didn't even have time to apply medicine or change my clothes. Wang Yu said, tugging at her clothes. She walked to the side and sat down. She glanced at Zeng San, who still looked the same without any medicine, and laughed. Zeng San, you've given your Zeng family too much face. How could you ask your father to step in? Even if you don't feel ashamed, I feel ashamed for you. You. Zeng San pointed at him angrily. His eyes were swollen, leaving only a small slit. You can't be so presumptuous in front of the guests. The head of the Wang family shouted softly. After glancing at him, he said to the head of the Zheng family, "Brother Zheng, you see that my son is also injured. I see that both of them are like this. This is also a matter of the younger generation. Can we just let it go? Let go. Can it be? Can it be let go? My son said that he saw a lady and your son try to snatch her away. That's why the two of them got into a fight. Tell me, who's in the wrong here? If you want to let it go, let Wang Yu apologize." The head of the Zheng family shouted and stared at Wang Yu angrily. Is this the case? You and Zheng San fought for a girl? The head of the Wang family asked with a frown. Of course not, father. It's not like that, Wang Yu said, and then said to the head of the Zheng family, Uncle Zheng, this is the case. I was going to have tea with a friend. Who knew that Zheng San wanted to take a girl away by force in the alley? The girl cried and begged to go home and let him let her go, but Zheng San still wanted to take her away by force. As he said this, he grinned, and this grin pulled at the wounds on his face, and he couldn't help but cry out, "You all know me, I can't stand this kind of bullying of the weak, so I went up to ask Zheng San to let that girl go. In any case, we are also the young masters of aristocratic families, right? Isn't it easy to get a girl? You can't rob her like this. If this were to spread, our clan would lose all face. Well, I was thinking that Uncle Zheng and our family are old family friends. If I didn't run into this matter, it would have been fine. But since I ran into it, of course I can't let Zheng San ruin Uncle Zheng's reputation like this, right? I didn't want people to say that Uncle Zheng didn't teach his son well, so I tried to persuade him. Who would have thought that he wouldn't listen and started to hit me? In order to defend himself, I could only fight back. Now I was injured all over. He really didn't know how to appreciate good intentions. It's hard to be a good person these days." Listening to him talking alone, Zheng San was so angry that he glared at him. Although things were like what he said, it was not entirely like that. But Wang Yu, this little bastard, was just pretending. He was so angry that he could not speak. She heard Wang Yu say that she had lost all her face and said that she had not taught her son well. The face of the head of the Zheng family was extremely ugly. With a dark face, he stared at Wang Yu for a long time and then looked at his son. He asked in a calm voice, "Why is what he said different for what you said? Didn't you promise me again and again that it was he who started it first and wanted to take the girl away from you?" "Father, he is lying." Chapter 4169. As soon as he finished speaking, he glared angrily at the two guards beside him and asked, "Tell me honestly, is it really like what he said it is? If you lie again, I'll break your legs." The two guards were shocked and quickly knelt down. Yes, it was young master who said that. We were just idiots. He was enraged. He stepped forward and kicked the two of them, directly sending them flying. "Brother Zheng, it's not a big deal. Let's forget about it. I won't argue with the children," the Wang family head said with a smile. The Zheng family head's face darkened. He turned back and bowed. "I'll go back and teach my unfilial son a lesson. Goodbye." As he spoke, he grabbed his son with one hand and strode out. Wang Yu saw this, shook his head and sighed. If the Zheng family head doesn't change his impatient temper, he'll bring trouble to the Zheng family. He didn't even ask clearly before coming here. Is there no one else in the Zheng family? How can they let someone else be the family head? Aren't they afraid of ruining the Zheng family? The Wang family head stepped forward and pulled his son's ear. "Why do you care about other people's family matters? Can't you give me one less day of trouble?" "Ouch, ouch, ouch, ouch. Father, let go. I'm not a child. It's ugly for you to pull my ear like this." He bent over and gasped. "You know it's ugly? Do you know that ever since your grandfather's strength regressed due to his injuries, our Wang clan's position in the 8 great clans has been declining day by day? Otherwise, do you think the Zheng clan would come knocking on our door for such a trivial matter?" The Wang family head snorted and let go of his son's ear. Looking at his son's embarrassed appearance, he said with disappointment, "I wanted you to marry the third miss of the Wang family to consolidate our Wang family status. Who would have thought that this marriage was ruined? Now everyone in the city is laughing at our Wang family. Do you know that?" Wang Yu rubbed her painful ear and said carelessly, "Dad, she doesn't like me today. Tomorrow, She won't be worthy of me. You don't have to worry about it. Besides, I'll tell you that I met a woman outside today. This woman. She was interrupted before she finished her words. Okay, I won't listen to your nonsense. You're like this. Go wash up and apply medicine. He shook his head and walked out with a helpless face. Father, I haven't finished speaking. Why are you leaving? He shouted. Seeing that his father didn't stop, he smiled and walked out carelessly. As he walked, he ordered, "Get someone to prepare some food and send it to my yard." After washing up, he applied medicine and had a meal. After sitting in the yard for a while, he got up and walked to the back of the mountain in the mansion. When he came to a cave residence in the back of the mountain, he put away his carelessness and cupped one hand in the other before his chest and said, "Grandfather, wants to see you. Come in." An old voice came from the cave residence. Wang Yu, who was outside, heard the order and walked in. In the simple cave residence, there was only a stone table and a stone bed. However, there were luminous pearls on the wall, so the light was as bright as daytime. Moreover, the spiritual qi here was more abundant than that outside. Chapter 4170. He bowed respectfully, then said, "Grandfather, I met a woman outside today." "Oh, what's so special about this person? She actually made someone come?" He got up, slowly walked to the table, and sat down, then raised his hand to signal him to sit beside him. Wang Yu sat down at the stone table and said, "This woman came from outside. I think she's special because she's very strong, and her aura is extraordinary. From her appearance, bearing, and clothes, she reminded me of someone." "Who?" He poured a cup of water and drank. "Ghost Dr. Fengjiu." Wang Yu slowly said these 4 words, a wisp of light flashing through his eyes. Hearing this, the old man didn't react but asked, "Who is this? I've never heard of her before." "Grandfather, it's not strange that you don't know. After all, our Azure Demon City is located in a rather remote area. It takes a long time for news from other big cities to reach our side. However, some of the people that I've spread out in other cities have returned after receiving first-hand news. Thus, I have some understanding of this ghost Dr. Fengjiu." He slowly said, then paused and continued. "Some time ago, our continent finally had a Lord of Heaven and Earth. Grandfather knows about this, but Grandfather doesn't know that the current Lord of Heaven and Earth, Monarch Chi Kong, is one of this ghost Dr. Fengjiu's people." "What?" the old man exclaimed in shock. Because he was too shocked, the cup in his hand overflowed, spilling all over his hand, but he didn't notice. "It said that this ghost Dr. Fengjiu isn't originally from our area, but a Lord of Heaven and Earth from another area, and her strength is extremely strong. Everyone knows the name of the ghost doctor, and her alchemy skills can be said to be unparalleled in the world. Everyone by her side is a top expert and can be an overlord." The old man took a deep breath and asked with a serious face, "The person you met, is she really ghost Dr. Fengjiu? Is she really as powerful as you say? If it's really her, why would she come to a remote town like ours?" "I can't be wrong. Grandfather hasn't seen her before. If you had seen her, you wouldn't have doubted her identity. Also, I asked her for her name, but she didn't say it. She only said that her surname was Feng." Wang Yu said thoughtfully, "However, I don't know why she came here, but I think I will know soon." Thus, he told his grandfather about how he met Fengjiu and how he found out where she lived. You're very good. Grandfather's efforts in nurturing you have not been in vain. Your knowledge, the way you handle matters, and your intelligence are all rare in the Wang clan. Grandfather's strength is not as great as before, and the Wang clan status among the 8 great clans is gradually falling behind. It's good that you're willing to restrain yourself. At the very least, you won't become a thorn in their side." As the old man spoke, he exhorted, "Now that you have the opportunity to meet that ghost Dr. Fengjiu, you should make good use of this opportunity. This might be a chance for you, but it might also be a chance for our Wang family. However, with ghost Dr. Fengjiu's strength, I'm afraid that she has already seen through your disguise. Rather than being suspected and exposed, why don't you reveal yourself first? Chapter 4171. Well, just do what you want. The old man said, pouring another cup of water, and said, I'm old, so I'll have to rely on you. You can decide some things by yourself, and you don't have to ask for instructions. I know, he answered, stood up, and said, Grandfather, I'll go back first. Go, he said, watching him get up and walk out. Then he walked out with his hands clasped behind his back and looked at the lights in the distance. After a long time, he went back. The next morning, Wang Yu went out with an attendant, intending to go to the inn to find Fengjiu. When he came to the inn, he asked and learned that she had not gotten up yet, so he sat and waited on the first floor. Fengjiu got up at about 7 a.m. She washed and went downstairs refreshed, ready to go to the city to see if there was anything delicious in the morning. However, when she went downstairs, she saw Wang Yu, who was dressed in brocade, sitting downstairs. She raised her eyebrows, glanced at him, and walked down slowly. Seeing him stand up to greet her, she smiled and said, When did you come? Miss Feng. Wang Yu saluted and said, I just came here for a while. I heard from the waiter that you haven't gotten up yet, so I waited here for a while. I was just thinking about going out to see if there are any special breakfast dishes in the city. Since you're here, why don't you introduce them to me? Fengjiu said, walking to the table and pouring a cup of tea. Hearing this, Wang Yu smiled and said, Miss Feng, you've asked the right person. If you want to know the special food in the city, no one is more familiar with it than me. I'll take you to the city. Then I'll have to trouble you. Fengjiu said, and glanced at Lung Shuang and Yi Feifei out of the door. She smiled and said, Call Du Fan and follow Child Wang to the city. Okay, I'll call him, Yi Feifei said with a smile. She turned around and walked towards Du Fan's room. She knocked on the door and called out, Big Brother Du, Master said that we should go to the city together. Downstairs, Wang Yu looked at Lung Shuang, who was dressed in black and had a cold face, and then looked at Yi Feifei, who was upstairs. Then, the door opened, and a handsome young man came out with a fan in his hand and a smile on his face. Looking at the three of them, his eyes flickered. Then he looked at Fengjiu. Seeing that she was looking at him, as if she had seen through his expression, he couldn't help but smile. Miss Feng, who are these three? My subordinate, Fengjiu said, glancing at him with a smile. Looking at the three people coming down the stairs, she introduced them to him. The one with the fan is Du Fan, the one in black is Lung Shuang, and the one next to him is Yi Feifei. Hearing this, Wang Yu was moved. His eyes fell on Du Fan, Lung Shuang, and Yi Feifei. He saluted them and said, I'm Wang Yu. The three of them returned the salute and came to Fengjiu's side. There's a porridge shop not far from here. The porridge there tastes very good. I'll take you there, Wang Yu said, motioning them to follow him. Because he had guessed Fengjiu's identity, today he was no longer the playboy he usually was. He was mature, steady, and polite. Fengjiu saw the change in him today. She just smiled and didn't say anything. She followed him out. Chapter 4172. According to their master, they thought that Wang Yu was a playboy, but judging from his appearance today, he did not look like one. Moreover, although he hid his cultivation well, they could see that his real strength was not weak based on their cultivation. Wang Yu introduced the scenic spots and prosperous places in the city to them along the way. When passing by a stall, he stopped and said to Fengjiu, This stall sells bowl cakes, which are also one of the specialties of the city. This is the most delicious bowl cakes in the city. I'll buy some for you to try. He asked the attendant to pay and bought a few bowls of cakes. He said, This bowl of cakes is steamed with rice, or it's fragrant and has a unique taste. You could try it when we arrive at the porridge shop in front. Fengjiu nodded and listened to his introduction as he walked. They came to a shop with a big porridge sign hanging in front of the door. They walked in and sat down at the table by the window. The porridge is freshly cooked, so it will take a little longer. However, I have asked the attendant to bring you some special snacks. You can try the bowl cakes first, Wang Yu said with a smile, and motioned them to eat the bowl cakes while it was hot. Wang Yu's attendant went to buy a lot of food and put on the table. They ate and were almost full before the porridge was served. Feng Jiu wiped his mouth and took a sip of tea. Then he said, "We ate a lot. I'm afraid we won't be able to eat when the porridge is served." "Then let's have a taste," Wang Yu said. They talked for a while. Not long after, the waiter came up with a pot of hot porridge and gave each of them a bowl. The hot smoke filled the air, and a delicious smell came to their noses. "It's really good," Feng Jiu said and tasted it first. Different from the previous porridge, she nodded and said, "It's very good." Hearing this, Wang Yu said with a smile, "It's the honor of this porridge shop to be praised by Miss Feng. The taste is indeed not bad. The porridge is very thick, and the taste is also very delicious," Du Fan also said. He was originally 70% full, but in the end he still ate 2 small bowls. Seeing them eating happily, Wang Yu was also happy. After they finished eating, she took them out for a walk to digest the food until they came to an ornamental pavilion. They sat on the 3rd floor of the viewing pavilion. The independent pavilion was very quiet. They could see the surrounding and the distant scenery at a glance. This place was excellent for both chatting and admiring the scenery. Feng Jiu looked at the surrounding scenery and then smiled. His eyes fell on Wang Yu, and he said, "Young Master Yu, you are like 2 different people today compared to yesterday." Hearing this, Wang Yu said apologetically, "I didn't mean to deceive Miss Feng, but in the aristocratic families, playboys are the least enviable." As he spoke, he stood up and bowed to Feng Jiu. "I apologize to Miss Feng here. Please forgive me for offending you yesterday." "It doesn't matter." Feng Jiu waved her hand and smiled carelessly. She said slowly, "But today I have something to ask you." "Oh, what does Miss Feng want to know?" Wang Yu asked and sat down at the table. "I want to know about the ancient 9-fox spirit fox. I heard that your Wang family has met it in the Cyan Demon Forest?" Feng Jiu asked directly. Chapter 4173. If there is anyone in this city who knows about the ancient 9-tailed fox, it is only my Wang family. However, it was my grandfather who entered the Cyan Devil Forest. I once heard him say that he saw an ancient 9-tailed fox in the depths of the Cyan Devil Forest. As he spoke, he poured more tea for Feng Nine and also for himself. He continued, "Back then, in order to enter the Cyan Demon Forest to pick an extremely rare spiritual medicine, they did not hesitate to risk their lives and enter the depths of the forest. When they were attacked by ferocious beasts and had nowhere to go, a snow-white little 9-tailed spiritual fox appeared. I heard from my grandfather that the little 9-tailed spiritual fox jumped onto a big tree and roared a few times on the branch. The surrounding ferocious beasts that attacked them were scared and fled in all directions. It was also because they met the 9-tailed spiritual fox that my grandfather and the others survived." Hearing this, Feng Jiu seemed to be thinking about something. He rubbed the teacup with one hand, and no one knew what he was thinking. "Does it really have 9 tails?" Du Fan asked. "Yes, an ordinary spiritual fox has only 1 tail, but that spiritual fox has 9 tails. Therefore, my grandfather believed that it was the ancient 9-tailed fox. Moreover, even the extremely ferocious, ominous beasts at the divine beast level were afraid of it. Except for the ancient 9-tailed fox, there is nothing else." Wang Yu said affirmatively. "The Cyan Devil Forest is so big that it is not easy to find the ancient 9-tailed fox in the depths." Feng Jiu said, looking at Wang Yu, and asked, "Did your grandfather have a map when he went in?" Wang Yu paused and said, "I don't know. I have to go back and ask my grandfather. Moreover, that was 10 years ago." Then she looked at Feng Jiu and asked, "Do you want to catch the ancient 9-tailed fox?" "Yes." Feng Jiu smiled and said, "I heard that the ancient 9-tailed fox appeared in the Cyan Devil Forest, so I want to catch it for my daughter as a contract beast." Listening to her casual and confident words, Wang Yu could not help but say, "But as far as I know, the ancient 9-tailed spirit fox comes and goes like a ghost. For so many years, except for my grandfather, no one else has seen it. After so many years, I don't know if the ancient 9-tailed spirit fox is still there." "Didn't you say that your grandfather met a little spirit fox back then?" "It's only been 10 years, so he might not be an adult. I think you should still be in the Azure Devil Forest, Feng Jiu said as he looked into the distance. Seeing this, Wang Yu said, "Why don't you come back to the Wang family with me? I'll have my grandfather meet you." As he spoke, he thought for a moment and said, "How about this? Aren't you going to stay in the city for a few days? Why don't you stay in my Wang family? If you want peace and quiet, I can set aside a quiet courtyard for you to stay in. No one will disturb you." Hearing this, Feng Jiu raised his eyebrows slightly, and a faint light flashed in her clear eyes. She looked at him and asked with a chuckle, "When did you guess our identity?" This was only the second time they had met today, and this second time, it was as if he had changed into a different person. He was no longer the hedonistic son of a rich family. Although he had tried his best to be calm and steady, the reverence in his words and actions still let her know that he had guessed their identities. Chapter 4174. Wang Yu was startled and looked at her. When he saw her looking at him with a faint smile, he said, "After we parted yesterday." "Yes, you're really good," Feng Jiu said with a smile. "But I'm curious, how did you guess our identity? I have some properties in other cities, and any big news in other cities will be sent to me as soon as possible. So, when I met Miss Feng yesterday, I was guessing. Later, when I heard you say your surname was Feng, I was almost sure." He did not hide anything and said it. "It seems that the Wang family is not as declining as it is rumored to be. At least, there are not many people in this city who know I'm here." Feng Jiu smiled, stood up, and walked slowly to the fence. Looking at the scenery in the distance, he said, "Since you know our identity and our purpose of coming to Azure Demon City, then, in the next few days, we'll come to your mansion and bother you." Seeing that she was not angry but agreed to visit his mansion, Wang Yu was overjoyed and hurriedly stood up, saying, "It's our honor to have Miss Feng come to our Wang family. However, I don't like trouble, so our identity must not be revealed," Feng Jiu said and turned to look at him. "I know about this. Only my grandfather knows about this. I didn't even tell my father. Come back with me. I will tell my father that an old friend of mine is here to stay for a short while. I won't reveal anything else." He hurriedly said, "Okay." Feng Jiu nodded and said, "Well, I also want to ask your grandfather about the ancient nine-tailed fox spirit." Wang Yu said with a smile, "Then I'll take you around the city today. There are several scenic spots in the city that are worth visiting. You can go and have a look. In the evening, I'll take you back to the mansion." "Okay," she responded. It was good to walk around the city to relax, so that she would not think about Xinyuan Mose and her two children when she was free. So, Wang Yu walked out of the attic and told a servant to go back to the mansion and have someone clean the yard. They could stay there when they went to the Wang family in the evening. On this day, he took Feng Jiu and others to play around the city. In the mansion, the head of the Wang family was surprised when he learned that Wang Yu had someone come back to clean the plum courtyard. When he arrived at the courtyard, he saw that the servants were all busy and the attendant was still watching the servants clean. He asked, "Jianshu, why did you come back by yourself instead of accompanying your young master?" As he said this, he glanced at the plum courtyard and asked, "Who are you letting to live in this plum courtyard for?" Jianshu was Wang Yu's confidant and servant. And his servant, after hearing the head's words, he said according to Wang Yu's order, "Master." The master met his old friends outside and invited them to stay in the mansion for a few days. Now the master accompanied them to play in the city and will come back to the mansion in the evening. So I came back to clean the plum courtyard to receive the guests. Hearing this, the head of the Wang family thought for a while and said, "Your master usually doesn't let people live in the plum courtyard, but today he uses it to entertain his old friends. I think he values his friends very much." He glanced at the plum courtyard and said, "Since it's your master's order, you should have people clean it carefully. In addition, tell the kitchen to prepare some wine and dishes to entertain your master's friends in the evening, so as not to be rude." Chapter 4175. Knowing that his son was going to bring a guest back, the head of the Wang family didn't care much. He just thought that the guest must have a good relationship with his son. Otherwise, he wouldn't have asked someone to clean the plum garden first. After instructing the servants to prepare so that they wouldn't be disrespectful, he threw the matter to the back of his mind. In the cave residence at the back of the mountain, a middle-aged man came to the residence and reported to the old ancestor of the Wong family. Master, the eldest young master asked someone to clean the plum garden first and said that he would bring a guest back to stay for a few days. Other things in the mansion are as usual. Today, I heard the head of the family making arrangements. It seems that he is going to celebrate your birthday. Hearing this, the old man was slightly surprised and said, "You mean you asked someone to clean the plum garden and said that a guest was going to live in?" The middle-aged man was surprised by his focus, but he didn't show it on his face. He just said, "Yes, when I passed by the plum garden, I saw the servants were cleaning and the kitchen was busy." It seems that the eldest young master values this guest very much. When he heard the news, the first thing that came to the old man's mind was whether the guest was the ghost Dr. Fengjiu. However, he wasn't sure. How could someone like Fengjiu live in the Wong family? "I see. You can leave now," he said and motioned for him to leave. However, just as the middle-aged man was about to leave, he was stopped by the old man. "Wait, master, what else can I do for you?" The middle-aged man asked and stopped. "You are his back. Ask him to see me," the old man said. "Yes," the middle-aged man answered and left. In the evening, Wang Yu took Fengjiu to the gate of the Wang family. He stopped and said to Fengjiu, "This is my home." Then he asked the servants to open the gate to welcome the guest. "It's very grand." Fengjiu looked at the gate and nodded. It was an old man who opened the gate. When he saw Wang Yu come back, he smiled and saluted. "Young master is back." He looked at Fengjiu, Lung Shuang, and Yi Fei with some surprise. He was surprised that Wang Yu would come back with 3 women. Originally, he thought that they would be girls from some small family, but seeing the 3's bearing, he didn't dare to be negligent. He hurriedly opened the door and invited them in. "Butler, why are you here?" Wang Yu asked when she saw him. "I heard from Jianshu that young master wanted to bring the guest back home, so I've been waiting here. Young master, ladies, please come in." Hearing this, Wang Yu invited Fengjiu and the others in and said to the housekeeper, "Housekeeper, you wait here for a while. Mr. Du will come later." The butler was slightly startled and hurriedly replied, "Yes." He was surprised. There was another guest. Fengjiu followed him into the prince's mansion. While looking at the scenery of the prince's mansion, he said, "Since I've disturbed you, I think I should meet your father. After all, this is etiquette. Entering someone else's house, since they were guests, they had to meet the host. Otherwise, it would be rude." Hearing this, Wang Yu paused and said, "Then I'll take you to the hall to have a cup of tea first, and then go to the yard to rest." While speaking, she beckoned a servant and said something. "Okay." Fengjiu responded and followed her to the hall. Chapter 4176. Yes, the young master just brought the guest into the mansion and asked me to report that he wants to invite you to the hall. The guard said respectfully, "Is the guest a man or a woman?" Family head Wang asked. The guard thought for a moment and said, "Yes, there are 3 women, but the one in red should be the master of the other 2. I heard that the young master also ordered the housekeeper to wait at the gate, saying that Mr. Du hasn't arrived yet." "I see. You can leave now," Family head Wang said thoughtfully and let the guard leave first. "What's wrong?" Mrs. Wang came over and asked. "You have brought the guest back. It seems that he wants us to meet them. Let's go. Let's go and see what kind of guest he brought back." The Wang family head straightened his robe as he spoke. "That's right." Hearing that it was a female guest, Mrs. Wang nodded and said, "Since it's a female guest, I'll go and have a look." Then she went out with her husband. Wang Yu took Fengjiu to the hall and occasionally stopped to introduce the structure and courtyard of the mansion to them. Therefore, when family head Wang and his wife arrived at the hall, they had not arrived yet. "This is the front hall," Wang Yu said, and saw that her parents were already sitting in the hall. She said to Fengjiu, "My father and mother are in the hall. Let me introduce you." Then she led her into the hall. "Father, mother." Wang Yu first bowed to the 2 of them, then smiled and said, "Let me introduce you. This is a friend of mine, surnamed Feng." Then she introduced Feng Ix's parents to them. "Greetings, family head Wang and Mrs. Wang." Fengjiu bowed to them. "Miss Feng, You don't have to be so polite. Please sit down. Wang Yu and his wife quickly said and invited her to sit down. Looking at the beautiful woman in red with extraordinary temperament, the couple could not help but look at each other and feel slightly surprised. They did not expect that there was such a beautiful woman in the world. Moreover, she knew their son. Although he was their son, they also knew that their son was just a hedonistic son. They usually had some friends, but they had never seen such an outstanding person like the one in front of them. The red-clothed woman's actions were natural and unrestrained, and her every movement revealed a sense of laziness and casualness. She did not have the slightest restraint or timidity of a woman. Instead, she had a noble aura that was formed from the heavens. Even as the family head and madam, they could not put on any airs in front of this woman. They were even a little nervous and restrained. It was as if the person sitting in front of them was not a young woman, but a noble powerhouse. As the woman in red sat down, the two women behind her also stood behind her. The woman in black was dressed in tight clothes and had a cold expression. However, she exuded a cold aura, and her cultivation level was unfathomable. The other woman's cultivation level was not strong, but her temperament was like that of a woman from a noble family. She was definitely not an ordinary rogue cultivator or maid. I hope the two of you don't mind my intrusion, Feng Jiu said with a smile as he looked at the two people at the head of the table. Chapter 4177. Feng Jiu smiled, glanced at Lung Shuang, and raised his hand. This is a little gift from me. I hope you will accept it. Lung Shuang came out, took a square gift box from the space, and handed it to them. Wang Yu was slightly surprised and said, "It's good that you can come. How can we accept your gift? It's the first time we visit, so we can't come empty-handed." Feng Jiu smiled and said carelessly, "It's just a little gift." Hearing her words, Mr. and Mrs. Wang looked at each other and said, "In that case, we thank you very much, Miss Feng." Then, Mrs. Wang motioned the maidservant to come forward and take it. They thought it should be some ordinary gifts, so they didn't take it seriously. They just thought that since it was a little gift from the girl, they should accept it. They couldn't ask her to take it back. "Is this the first time Miss Feng comes to Azure Demon City?" Family head Wang asked. "Yes, it's my first time here," Feng Jiu answered and took a sip of tea. "Where's Miss Feng from? How did you know you were?" Mrs. Wang couldn't help asking. Hearing this, Feng Jiu smiled. When he was about to speak, Wang Yu stood up and said, "Father, Mother, they must be tired after playing outside for a whole day. I'll take them to the plum garden to have a rest." Seeing this, the couple looked at each other and said with a smile, Yes, let's go to have a rest first. Since Miss Feng is here, you should take good care of her. See if there is anything missing in the plum garden. Accompany Miss Feng to play around these 2 days." "I know. I'll take them to have a rest first," Wang Yu said and looked at Feng Jiu. Feng Jiu stood up and smiled at family head Wang and Mrs. Wang, saying, "Family head, Mrs. Wang, I'll go to have a rest first." Okay. The Wang couple responded and stood up as well. They watched Wang Yu leave with the 3 girls. When they were out of sight, Madame Wang said worriedly, "Isn't it inappropriate for you to take care of these 3 girls? We don't have to worry about this. You will arrange everything. Moreover, this Miss Feng seems to have an extraordinary background. Didn't you notice? You only said that her surname was Feng and didn't even tell us her name. She also didn't allow us to ask in detail. She was very mysterious," Wang family head said thoughtfully. He felt very strange in his heart. It wasn't that he looked down on his son, but how did his son make such an outstanding friend? The head of the Wang family looked outside. Suddenly, as if he remembered something, he turned to look at his wife and said, "By the way, isn't it Father's birthday in a few days? I think there hasn't been a happy event in our family for a long time, so I want to hold a big one. I've already asked my subordinates to prepare for it. You keep an eye on it these days and let them arrange it carefully. I know, but if we hold a big one, too many people will be invited. I'm a little worried that something will happen at that time," Madame Wang said with a little worry between her eyebrows. "Are you worried that other families will take the opportunity to make trouble?" Wang family head asked. "Yes, don't worry about this. On such a day, No one will be so sensible to make trouble. Wang family head said and clasped his hands behind his back. Let's go. Go back to the courtyard. Chapter 4178. Yes. The maidservant answered and handed over the box in her hand. Mrs. Wang took the box and went back to the room with her husband. On the other side, Wang Yu took Fengjiu and others to the plum courtyard and said, the plum courtyard is a little far from the front yard. It's a remote place in the mansion, but it's quiet and quiet. You can live here. It's divided into inner and outer courtyards. There are more than a dozen rooms. You can choose whichever one you want. I'll tell the servants not to disturb you if no one asks. Wang Yu introduced them to the plum courtyard while taking them inside. He opened the door and said to Fengjiu, this room has the best position. It's the master bedroom. You can live in this room. Okay. Fengjiu answered and looked inside. No one usually lives here, right? Because there are several courtyards in the mansion to entertain guests. I usually don't let people live in the plum courtyard. Wang Yu smiled and said, you've been tired all day today. Have a good rest first. I've asked the maidservants to wait outside in the courtyard. You just need to call them. I'll go first. Have a good rest. With that, he bowed to Fengjiu and turned to leave. After watching him leave, Yi Fei then said with a smile, Master, this young master you seems to be quite good. He arranged it well. It's really quiet in the courtyard, and the environment is really good. Master, do you want to take a bath? I'll ask someone to prepare the water first. Lung Shuang said and looked at Fengjiu. Well, a hot bath is also good. Ask someone to prepare it. Fengjiu said and went to the soft couch in the master bedroom to lie down. So, Lung Shuang asked someone to prepare the water for the bath. At this time, Du Fan came with the housekeeper. Young Master Du, this is the plum courtyard. You have a good rest. I'll leave first. The housekeeper said and left after bowing. Is the spirit, dear, carriage settled? Lung Shuang asked. Well, it's in the Wang family. The housekeeper arranged it himself. Don't worry, Du Fan said and looked at the courtyard, showing a smile. It's quite big here, and the environment is really better than the inn. There are more than a dozen rooms in the courtyard, divided into the front yard and the backyard. Master, you live in the master bedroom. Fei and I live in one next to it. You choose one, Lung Shuang said and went inside. Du Fan rubbed his chin and said, you can come however you want. I'll just stay next to you. As he said this, he went to the door of one of the rooms and pushed it open to take a look. He said, where? How come we don't know? If you don't know, I don't know either. Why don't we call our son here and ask him? Mrs. Wang said and put the box on the shelf. We have to ask him. After a while, he'll probably still be in the plum courtyard with Miss Feng and the others. The Wang family head said and looked at her. Seeing that she was putting the box on the shelf, he asked in surprise, why did you bring the gift they sent to the room? Didn't you put it in the storeroom? I thought the box was not big, so I took it back. Mrs. Wang said. Chapter 4179. Hearing this, Madame Wang picked up the box and walked to the table. It's quite light. I guess it's a small thing. As she spoke, she opened the box and saw only a bottle of medicine inside. She was stunned and looked at her husband. It seems to be medicine. Medicine? Patriarch Wang took off his coat and hung it up. After hearing her words, he walked forward and saw that there was indeed a bottle of medicine in the box. He picked it up and opened it. When the bottle cap was opened, a strong spiritual aura accompanied by the smell of the elixir came to his nose. He was stunned for a moment and quickly poured the elixir into his hand. Hiss! This is... He widened his eyes in shock and looked at the elixir with an elixir pattern in his palm. His heart was like a storm, fiercely impacting his soul. This is a 7th level elixir of the best quality. Madame Wang saw the 7 elixir patterns and exclaimed in surprise. Such an elixir is priceless outside. She gave it to us just like that. As the mistress of one of the 8 great families, she still had a discerning eye. However, this kind of elixir was something that even her family's storehouse didn't have. How could Miss Feng just casually give it away? She couldn't help but look at her husband, who hadn't recovered yet, and said hesitantly, could it be that she took it by mistake? Isn't this gift too precious? Patriarch Wang looked at the elixir in his hand and said with a dignified expression, "This is not an ordinary 7th-level elixir. This is an elixir that can help one's strength to break through. As far as I know, even the alchemists in the Alchemy Guild can't refine this kind of 7th-level elixir." As he spoke, he carefully put the elixir back into the bottle and said, "Ask someone to call you or here." As he spoke, he turned around and put on the coat that he had just taken off. "Okay," Madame Wang said and gave an order to the outside. At this time, Wang Yu was in the cave residence at the back of the mountain, talking to his grandfather about what happened today. "Grandfather, I guessed correctly. She is indeed the ghost Dr. Fengjiu. She came here this time for the ancient 9-tailed spirit fox. I don't know much about it, so I invited her here. I'll arrange for you to meet her tomorrow." Ancient 9-tailed spiritual fox. He pondered for a moment before saying, "I didn't expect you to come for the ancient 9-tailed spiritual fox." He paused for a moment and said, "I got it. Take good care of them. I'll pay them a visit tomorrow. Then I'll go back first." He bowed and left. After he left, the old man started searching in his own space. "Let's see if the map and records are still there." Wang Yu came back from the back of the mountain. She was about to visit her parents when she saw the housekeeper hurriedly looking for her. "Young master, I've finally found you. The head of the family wants you to make a trip to the main courtyard," the housekeeper said as he wiped the sweat from his forehead. He looked around the mansion but couldn't find her, so he thought that she might have gone to the back of the mountain. As he was about to go to the back of the mountain, he saw her. Wang Yu smiled and opened the fan in her hand. She gently fanned herself and said, "I'm going there." "Well, you can go about your business." As she spoke, she walked to the main courtyard. Chapter 4180. Seeing him coming, family head Wang glanced at the guards in the city and said, "You can all leave." "Yes, sir." The guard responded and left the room. "Come in with me," family head Wang said and stepped into the room with his hands behind his back. Mrs. Wang followed him in. Wang Yu touched his chin and thought for a while. He closed his fan and followed them in. When he entered the room, he saw that they looked a little dignified. He asked, "Father, mother, what's wrong? What is the background of this friend of yours?" The Wang family head asked directly. Hearing this, Wang Yu grinned and said, "Father, she's just staying with us for a few days and will leave in 2 days. Why do you want to find out her background?" Who is Miss Feng? Do you know what she gave us as a greeting gift in the hall?" Madame Wang asked as she pulled him to the side to greet her. "What did she give you?" Wang Yu asked curiously. "She gave us a 7th-level top-grade elixir," family head Wang said, and took out the medicine bottle and put on the table. A 7th-level top-grade elixir? Wang Yu was also surprised. Seeing his father take out an exquisite medicine bottle, he took it, opened it, and poured out the contents. After taking a look, he couldn't help but be stunned. This is not an ordinary 7th-level best-grade pill. This pill is Cloud-Breaking Pill, which can help you break through your cultivation. Yes, this gift is too expensive. 7th-level elixirs are hard to find on the market, let alone the Cloud-Breaking Elixir. Holding this elixir, I feel a little uneasy. He sighed softly, looked at Wang Yu, and said, "Tell me honestly, who is this Miss Feng? Why did she give us such a treasure? And should we accept this elixir or return it to her?" The main reason was that the gift was too expensive, and they knew nothing about her. If she just came to stay for 2 days and gave him such a valuable elixir, even if he was tempted, he would not dare to accept it. Listening to his words, Wang Yu knew what he was thinking. He pondered for a while and said, "Father, since she gave it to you, just accept it. As for her identity and background, forgive me for not being able to tell you. I can only say that she is a very honorable person. During these days in the mansion, we only need to receive her with all our hearts. Don't ask about anything else, and don't care about it." Hearing this, family head Wang and his wife looked at each other. Since he said so, they said, "We know. Father, keep this pill. Don't let anyone know about it. I'll discuss the matter of the pill with grandfather later. Let's see which of you is the best choice for our Wang clan. I'll go back first." "Well, don't worry. We know that," the Wang family head said as he put the pills into his space. After watching him leave, he suddenly seemed to react. He looked at his wife and said strangely, "Madam, didn't you seem to have changed into a different person just now? Why did he give people a feeling of steadiness and wisdom? Am I hallucinating?" Hearing this, Mrs. Wang was also stunned. She said doubtfully, "He seems to be a different person. He is a little different from usual." Hearing this, family head Wang looked outside thoughtfully. No one knew what he was thinking, and he did not speak for a long time. Chapter 4181. Old Master returned to the courtyard early this morning. Old Master has been cultivating in the back of the mountain for nearly 10 years. When I heard that Master was holding 100th birthday celebration for Old Master, I also hoped that Old Master could come out of the cave residence in the back of the mountain and stay in a mansion for a few days. After all, there are many people outside who are saying that our Wang family is declining day by day because Old Master's strength has regressed and he doesn't have much life left. Now that Old Master has returned to the courtyard and his complexion is very good, if people outside know, they will definitely not say that. A servant girl said softly, her words carrying unconcealable joy and excitement. "Do you want to die? How dare you talk about Old Master in the mansion? Hurry up and shut up. Don't let the masters hear, or you will be severely punished." Another servant girl, who was slightly older, said nervously. She looked around and saw that no one was around, then patted her chest and sighed in relief. The young servant girl stuck out her tongue and said, "I don't mean anything else. I'm just too happy. This is the first time I've seen Old Master since I entered the mansion. He looks even younger than my grandfather. I can't tell that he is 100 years old." That's right, Old Master's cultivation is there. Naturally, no ordinary person can compare to him. As the older servant girl said, she pulled her and said, Let's go to the front yard and see if there's anything we can help with. Servants like us shouldn't talk too much about the master's matters." As the two walked further and further away, Fengjiu, who was sitting on the tree and enjoying the scenery, stretched and took out a spiritual fruit to eat. Her legs were propped up on the tree branch, and one hand was behind her head. Her whole body could be said to be half lying on the tree. She looked around and saw all the courtyards of the prince's mansion clearly. She saw and heard the busy figures of the servants and the whispers of the occasional conversation. After finishing the fruit, she squinted her eyes and half lay on the tree, enjoying the gentle breeze of the morning and feeling the fresh air between the trees. She half closed her eyes, but the green lotus chi in her body was circulating, attracting the spiritual chi of heaven and earth in the morning, as well as the vitality of the plants after the Wang family ancestor took a bath. He wanted to take a walk around the mansion. After all, he had been cultivating in the cave at the back of the mountain for 10 years. Although he seemed familiar with the mansion, he was actually unfamiliar with it. He walked around the manor. When he passed by the trees next to the rockery, Old Master Wang stopped and suddenly looked up. When he saw the girl in red dozing off on the tree, a wise light flashed in his eyes. He asked, "May I ask, is this Miss Feng?" She was dressed in red and looked peerless. The woman on the tree was very recognizable. Hearing the voice, Fengjiu opened her eyes and looked down. She saw an old man slightly cupping his hands and looking at her. Thus, she jumped down from the tree and landed in front of the old man. "I am. Are you the ancestor of the Wang clan?" Fengjiu asked, but his tone sounded more certain. The robe of the old man in front of her was not outstanding, but the material was of high quality. Although he did not seem very strong to her, he was stronger than the rest of the people in the mansion. Therefore, other than the ancestor of the Wang clan, there was probably no one else. Hearing this, the old man smiled kindly. "That's me." As he spoke, he paused and smiled. "I heard you mention Miss Feng. I wanted to pay you a visit, but I didn't expect to meet you here." Chapter 4182. There's a pavilion over there. Why don't we go there and have a seat? The Wang clan ancestor pointed at a pavilion not far away. All right, Fengjiu agreed and walked with him towards the pavilion. After the two sat down in the pavilion, the old man waved his hand, and a soundproof barrier was set up. He looked at Feng Jiao and smiled. You were as already told me, but I didn't expect to see someone like the ghost doctor in my Wang clan. If there's anything that the Wang clan has not received you well, please forgive us. No, the Wang clan is very good, Feng Jiao said with a smile. I heard from you, that the ghost doctor wants to inquire about the nine-tailed fox spirit. However, it's been 10 years since then. Even this old man doesn't know if the ancient nine-tailed fox spirit is still in the Azure Demon Forest. This old man is worried that he won't be able to help the ghost doctor. As he spoke, he took out an old map from his space and said, "This is the map we used back then. There are markings on it. Back then, when we were in a desperate situation, we met the ancient nine-fox spirit fox. This is the place where we met it." He pointed at a place on the map and said, "This place is a canyon in the depths of the Azure Demon Forest. There are many powerful ferocious beasts, but there are no ferocious beasts in this area. Back then, we left along this area. Later on, I guess that this area should be the territory of the ancient nine-tailed fox spirit, so no other ferocious beasts dare to come close." Feng Jiao looked at the place he was pointing at and said, "This place looks quite big. Yes, even if we fly on the sword, it will take a day to get out of this area. However, there are many trees there, so it's not suitable for flying. Most of the time, we have to walk. I remember that back then, we walked for 3 to 4 days with injuries." The Wang clan ancestor said, looking at Feng Jiao, and said, "Because of my injuries back then, I have been cultivating in seclusion ever since I came back. In these 10 years, I have rarely inquired about the outside world. I don't know what changes have happened in the Azure Demon Forest. If you want to go, it's better to bring more people." Feng Jiao smiled and said, "I brought a few people." "A few people?" The Wang clan ancestor was startled, then smiled and shook his head. "How can a few people do it? Back then, my group of 60 to 70 people, but less than 20 people came back alive." He took out another piece of paper and said, "I thought about it last night and drew the ancient nine-tailed spirit fox that I saw that year. Back then, the ancient nine-tailed spirit fox was still a cub and had not yet matured. Now, it has only been 10 years. For an ancient divine beast, if there is no opportunity, not to mention 10 years, even 1,000 years may not be enough for it to mature." Feng Jiao watched him open the paper. On the paper, the nine-tailed fox appeared vividly in front of her eyes. Looking at the nine-tailed fox, Feng Jiao smiled. "This nine-tailed fox is very beautiful. The ancient nine-tailed fox spirit is an extremely beautiful divine beast. Its appearance is unforgettable." The Wang clan ancestor smiled and handed the drawing to her, saying, "This is all I know about the nine-tailed fox spirit. If you want to go, you can use my Wang clan's transmission formation to save time. You can also directly go to the transmission formation set up by the Wang clan in the Azure Demon Forest." Chapter 4183. Looking at Feng Jiao, the old ancestor of the Wang family smiled and said, "It's rare for Ghost Doctor to come to Azure Demon City. Stay here for a few more days. Let you accompany you around. Besides, it's my 100th birthday in 2 days. If Ghost Doctor doesn't mind, please stay and join in the fun." "Okay." Feng Jiao nodded and said with a smile, "Since there's a transmitting formation in the mansion that leads directly to Azure Demon Forest, we'll stay here for 2 more days." The two chatted in the pavilion for a while. Occasionally, the servants who passed by the rockery looked at the old master and the distinguished guests brought back by the young master in the pavilion. They were surprised. Driven by curiosity, they wanted to listen to what they were talking about, but they couldn't hear their voices. They knew that there was a soundproof bounded domain. When Wang Yu heard that his grandfather and Feng Jiao were at the rockery, he came to find them. Seeing them talking happily in the pavilion, he walked up to them. At this time, the soundproof bounded domain in the pavilion had been removed. "Grandfather, Miss Feng." He bowed and greeted the two of them. "Haha, you is here." The old master of the Wang family smiled and said, "I haven't been back for a long time, so I thought I'd take a walk around the mansion in the morning before visiting Miss Feng. I didn't expect to meet you here." Your grandfather invited me to his 100th birthday. I think I'll have to stay here for a few more days. Feng Jiu smiled and looked at Wang Yu. Hearing this, Wang Yu was slightly surprised and showed a happy expression. It's our honor that Miss Feng is willing to stay and attend my grandfather's birthday. You accompany Miss Feng to play around. You must be a good host. The old master of the Wang family stood up and smiled at Feng Jiu. Miss Feng, I'll go back first. Feng Jiu also stood up and said, Okay, take care, old Master Wang. The old master of the Wang family nodded and then turned to leave with a smile. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. The higher one's position is, the more extraordinary one's status is, and the more extraordinary one's cultivation is. The ghost Dr. Feng Jiu was so famous, and his strength was so extraordinary, but his actions did not have a trace of arrogance. Instead, he was elegant, courteous, and approachable. He was truly a rare character. After her grandfather left, Wang Yu asked, Miss Feng, I wonder what my grandfather said can help you? Feng Jiu smiled and said, Old Master found a route that year and drew me a picture of the nine-tailed spirit fox overnight. These are all very useful to us. Moreover, he also said that we can use the teleportation formation in your residence. That's good, Wang Yu said with a smile. She looked at the weather and said, Today's weather is good. Why don't I accompany you to the suburbs to play? The Green Cloud Jade Pool not far from Azure Demon City is a good place to visit. All right, Feng Jiu said and walked to the plum garden with her. He called Du Fan, Lung Shuang, and Yi Fei Fei, and then went out with Wang Yu in the carriage. There were two carriages. Du Fan and Wang Yu sat in one, and Feng Jiu and the other two sat in the other. Sitting in the carriage, Du Fan and Wang Yu naturally chatted. To Du Fan's surprise, Wang Yu was very knowledgeable. No matter what he talked about, he could talk about it. Along the way, he began to admire him a little more. Chapter 4184. Wang Yu lifted the curtain and took a look. When she saw the familiar people, she frowned and turned back to Du Fan, saying, Brother Du, you sit for a while. I'll go down and have a look. Then she got out of the carriage and went forward. In front of her, a carriage blocked the road. In front of the carriage, several childs in brocade clothes looked askance at Wang Yu, who was coming over with their arms crossed. One of them sneered and said with a kind face, Wang Yu, where are you going? Zhang San, wasn't the lesson last time enough? Today you come to provoke me again? Are you asking for a beating? Wang Yu opened the fan in her hand and glanced at the man who spoke. Seeing that his eyes were still swollen and his face was blue and red, Wang Yu closed the fan in her hand and patted her palm gently, saying, I don't have time to play with you today. Hurry up and tell your people to get out of the way. And you guys, don't make trouble. Then she glanced at the three people around Zhang San. Zhang San ignored her, but looked at the carriage behind her and asked, Who's in your carriage? Wang Yu glanced at him and said, It's none of your business. You. Zhang San was annoyed. When he was about to roll up his sleeves and fight with her, he was stopped by the people around him. Didn't you say that you won't fight today? Don't be impulsive. The wound on your face hasn't healed yet. Yes, Wang Yu hit us hard. We didn't come here to fight with her today. Two men in brocade clothes next to him pulled him and said in a low voice, looking curiously at the carriage behind Wang Yu. In fact, they heard from Zhang San that there was a beauty in red living in the Wang family. When they learned that Wang Yu took the beauty out today, they wanted to follow and have a look. I won't fight with you today. As Zhang San spoke, he waved his hand and signaled for the carriages to move to the side. He stood on the side of the carriage and stared at the two carriages, thinking that he should find an opportunity to lift the curtain and take a look to see if it was the beauty from the other day. Wang Yu saw them staring at the carriage, so she paid more attention. Today, she brought Feng Jiu out to play. She didn't want these people to cause any trouble. Thus, after boarding the carriage, he sat outside and didn't enter. Instead, he paid attention to them. When he saw the carriage pass by them, Zhang San actually took a big stride forward and was about to lift the curtain, causing his face to darken. This idiot, he cursed in a low voice. A chi blade shot out from his hand and hit his knee. Ouch! Sungsin took a big step forward and directly knelt down. His knees heavily knelled on the ground, causing him to suck in a breath of cold air. Lowering his head, he saw that there was already blood faintly seeping out from his knees. Hiss! Seeing the two carriages pass by in front of their eyes and go into the distance, they immediately cursed angrily. Wang Yu, you bastard! Seeing that the people behind him were still standing there in a daze, he shouted at them. What are you looking at? Hurry and help me up. Third young master, your knee is injured. Why don't you go back to the mansion and deal with it first? One of the men in brocade clothes said. Seeing that his knee was bleeding, he couldn't help but feel pain. He knelt down heavily on the gravel without any warning. It was too painful. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.